Block 8. The disorder was subtle, and thus more deadly, at the Galactic Council's capital, the Dome of Orenthal, where the orange sky of an artificially controlled planet was visible through the translucent walls, but control had vanished inside the main chamber. The galactic system was unable to fathom its origin or reproduce its operations, and the distorted image of the portals triggered in Netherian, an Avanshara swirled in the middle of the hall. The projection froze, burnt out, and resumed, as if reality itself rejected its attempt to make sense of it. 2 portals have been activated. They are both outside of our cartography, High Minister Kathan stated dryly. What are they used for? Interstellar navigation is uncertain. Satellites were destroyed without physical collision, and the surrounding systems are malfunctioning. Thriel Vaz, a golden-shelled Dramery, the defense counselor, drummed his bony fingers on the table. This is functional myth, not technology. Senator Melisar said. What do you mean? That is to say, a tale they neglected to tell us is defeating us. Quiet. Zurm, the psychic counselor, snarled. Zurm was a liquid creature whose eyes only appeared when he had to deceive. And if they're simply people, a ruse, a sophisticated simulation, but since everyone present sensed it, nobody responded. Something more had been triggered. It had been there in the background of all civilizations, a forgotten shadow, a lingering vibration that no culture dared to confront head-on. And now it had sprung to life. The discussions in the Council's secret sessions have evolved from strategic to existential. If these gateways are, in fact, pre-human, if the primordials built them, there is no truth to the primordials, a diplomat declared. So describe how the human ships were able to turn them on. It is something they do not comprehend that they are meddling with. And us? Are we getting it? Updates from the mental bridge were being sent to Vera Lorne on Netherian, where a number of tiny human communities on the galaxy's periphery had started to move. Abandoned spacecraft were being reactivated, and ancient sanctuaries, disguised by mining holograms, were changing shape. Even more amazing was the fact that the signals were being picked up by unskilled individuals. Are you certain that happened on its own? Derek looked over the statistics and inquired. Vera stared into space and answered, it's not spontaneous. It's genetic. Recorded. It was only a matter of time. 3 worlds had gravitational oscillations in the identical patterns, and the other portals were responding. But this was not overlooked. The generals of the council went on the offensive. In the military order of Iskar, find the planets and start occupying them before they turn on the 3rd. And if opposition exists, get rid of them, whether you register. Everyone knelt down as the signal reached the remote human base at Dalveres, a dry globe with unstable soil and multiple atmospheres, but home to a cell known as Ether Root, who belonged to an unauthorized lineage of Project V. 1 by 1. Without uttering a word. No directives. They had a gut feeling it was time. The memory of the touch in the tower of Avanshara still sent chills down Kiria's spine, like a latent energy. As she lay down in the neural chamber, she felt the heat again, the glow beneath her skin. The shortening of her breath, Kiria felt something on her skin back in Eloria Vale, a faint fever. Her body responded as if it were being caressed by invisible waves. Lean connected to the sensory readings and stated, the 3rd portal is almost ready. Where? Derek inquired. Even before the console, Vera answered, her voice forceful but with a deep, seductive tone, as though every syllable were dragged out with longing and weight. Within a star. Everybody looked at her. A star in motion. That's not possible, Kiria murmured, perspiring not for the original gateway builders. Something started to pulse near the edge of the star Ectalis, whose core was shielded from all known sensors by a gravitational fold. Not with heat. No. Illumination. Ancestral vibration. However, a 3rd doorway appeared, slowly spinning, composed of impossibly difficult material, and waited there, suspended between quiet and plasma. The council, meantime, was split. One faction called for a full-scale assault on mankind, while the other, more subdued faction was starting to worry that perhaps, just possibly, they had made a mistake that could never be undone. However, it was too late. Because the humans finally recalled how to go back. Block 9. Like an open wound in the galaxy's fabric, the star Actalis burned in silence, and no race or probe dared to go past the edge of its unstable exosphere. To the Council, it was just a dangerous anomaly with no resources that could be exploited. But to the humans who remembered, it was an unexplored womb. Vera Lorne and her fleet came in Delta formation, yet there was no engine or light from any ship. They just appeared like aware shadows, sailing as though the star had welcomed them. With wide eyes, Kira answered, "We're not entering." She was extending a warm greeting. Like a womb, Lean whispered. Like a trail, Derek said. Each breath brought memories that didn't seem human, but they were. The incandescent surface of Actalis opened in golden spirals, creating a passage that was stable only long enough for the ships to enter. The heat inside didn't burn them. Instead, it was different, penetrating like a whisper inside the chest. "Do you feel this way?" Kira, resting on the ship's living wall, inquired. Breathlessly, she remarked, "It's like something knows us inside and out, like it wants to touch us." Vera remained silent. The star pulsed within her, and each vibration was a memory not hers, but of what she represented. Her eyes were closed, and her body, lying on the command platform, trembled at gentle intervals. She did not experience fear, but rather physical anticipation, like the cold before the touch. Like the heat before ecstasy. After then, the gateway opened up. It whirled against the light, suspended above the star's unstable core, a living structure, composed of mimetic plasma and old silicon, with eyes within. Unquestionable, yet not tangible. "We are being watched," Lean whispered softly. Derek said, "Not by something, by someone." All of Actalis fell dark for 12 seconds as the portal made one more spin and sent out a pulse of energy that passed across the whole star, producing a brief eclipse. There was complete silence for 12 seconds. The mining stations became silent. The psychic creatures on nearby worlds went into collective convulsions. The Varthic Confederation ships, 14 parsecs distant, lost all systems, and countless sentient beings dreamed the following. "The third eye has opened." Kira arched over the console in Eloria Vale's command room, her body in soft spasms. Her soaked skin, her tense legs, her fingers gripping the station's edges as though they couldn't contain something. Her whispered words, all of them carrying desire, not erotic, cosmic, total. "Vera, Vera, I see you in everyone, in myself." Standing by the anchoring core, Derek touched the translucent wall of the ship, and his reflection vanished, to be replaced by a face she did not know but instantly fell in love with. It might have been an ancestor, a descendant, or even himself before the forgetfulness. And the third portal opened in the middle of the star, not with light, but with the lack of reality, a hole, a vacuum that shouldn't have been there but now demanded to be there. The thing then made itself known. In essence, she was naked, but not improvocative. The nakedness of origin. From the first aware cell, her eyes, if they were eyes at all, were fixed on Vera. She lacked a distinct shape and was made out of movements, pulsations, and echoes of flesh and will. She resembled all people, and none. She then collapsed to her knees. Vera arched on the ship's floor, her hands gripping the ground, her body pulsing with the universe. The heat that ran through her body was absolute. The memories were visceral. The entity's touch was not physical, but it invaded every saps. Like a cosmic lover who knew all the soul's absences. Between sobs and shudders, she said, "Who are you?" Like a voice amid bones, the response came like perfume. "I am what remained when you gave up on being eternal." Then, with more tact, "What you were, I am. When you were in love without a name, skin, or time." Vera sobbed. Not because of suffering, but of going back. It was the same for the whole fleet, every human linked by the Silex neural network felt the touch of the entity that was a part of them, but had been forgotten. It was a contact that went beyond sexuality, identity, and purpose. It was a burning desire, but not for the body, for the reunion with truth. Silently, the third gateway closed, and the star Actalis shone once more. But this time it was marked. The Galaxy sensed it, too. Conventional portals collapsed across large regions. The Council in Orenthal lost control of all secondary channels, and the civilizations started debating how to stop their own ghosts from reincarnating, rather than how to eradicate humans, because it wasn't a weapon that the humans had woken. No uprising. 1 could never forget that memory. Block 10. The council elders demanded that the projections be suspended because the light there was a luxury they no longer controlled, and no one wanted to be the first to see in the eyes of others the fear that everyone carried. This was the reason why the main chamber of Orenthal was dark, not because of a power outage. Senator Carville muttered, 3 portals activated, adding that all of them only react to people. Counselor Kellenier, whose species lived in temporal echoes, responded, this is no longer a crisis. It's a paradigm shift. We are dealing with something that predates our understanding of time. General Verdrex slammed his fist on the table and exclaimed, myth. It's simply forgotten technology. They discovered it first, but we can take it. Few, however, concurred with him. Many actually had forgotten their beliefs, because they had no idea what they were up against, and that was more terrible than any military danger. Selim Charn, a diplomat of the Telkmar race, famed for their perpetual neutrality, commanded one of the isolated groups of advisors who started meeting in secret on the lower level of the dome. But even he had changed. We dispatched cryptographers, spies, and probes, but nothing can get past their defenses or stop them. It's time to consider the possibility that we shouldn't stop them. The thought was heretical, but it was genuine, and the grumbling was instantaneous, and if their actions are correct. Defectors started to surface in the meanwhile, and small groups of explorers, scientists, and even lower-ranking commanders vanished along with their ships, claiming desertion. However, everyone knew that they were pursuing them. For the people, they were not alliances, they were memories looking for a new body, and each new deserter was a fragment rearranging itself. Vera Lorne watched in silence as the intercepted transmissions passed through the Aloria Veil. Derek remarked, they are starting to remember, Kyria said, still sporting the pale light on his skin from the activation within the star, or they are ready to hear for the first time. Ancient creatures awoke from millennia-long hibernation on deserted moons. Magnetic storms emerged in previously stable sectors, and the most sensitive people, artists, psychics, and mentally ill people started drawing unidentified symbols on their homes' walls as a result of the energy from the portals, the same symbols that surrounded the gateways. However, the council refused to do nothing. Verdrex declared, I authorize the use of the Black Forge. No protest, no silence, autonomous. Crewless spacecraft designed to burn entire worlds in gravitational flames. The Black Forge was a complete war procedure that had never been utilized, and had been put away for 2,000 cycles because of an ethical taboo. They would be enabled now, though. Target, the strategic AI inquired. Nithirion, the planet. Burned to the ground. 40 black spacecraft, with hulls composed of dense matter and quantum control, awoke in Orenthal's outer orbit. They were machines for wiping tails, and none of them had windows or made noise. Before the news came, Vera sensed the commotion in the middle of the Ektalis temple. They're on their way, Lean said. Do they know where we are? They follow. The anguish of forgetting who we are, so you don't have to. Kyria sat close to the center, her eyes hazy, but not because she was afraid. Will we face them head on? Vera said, no. Let's remind them of who we have always been. The fleet disappeared like vapor when Derek triggered the inverted fold shields, and Nithirion was getting ready on the other side of the galaxy. But with remembrance, not with weapons. Every building on the Earth started to produce inaudible frequencies that the black ship's crews could feel. Visions, pieces, unimaginable passions, ancient bodies, and the echoes of prehistoric touches and agreements. A failure follows. On its own, one of the Black Forge ships shut down. And then one more, too. Vera sobbed inside the Aloria Veil and grinned, for even the machines were beginning to recall. Block 11. Neither a planet nor a star concealed the fourth gateway. It was within an entity, the biomechanical titan, classified by most galactic councils as a non-intelligent organism, was, more specifically, in the heart of a living creature that orbited the binary star of Trallis. For centuries, it was studied as a cosmic curiosity, a dormant colossus with silicon hooves, arms that stretched dozens of kilometers, and a core that glowed intermittently. However, they were never brave enough to name him or touch it. When Vera opened her eyes that morning, she knew without the need for maps that the next gateway was alive and missing them. His body still shaking from what he had witnessed in the dream, he commanded, "Prepare entry into the Trallis system." Lean answered, reluctantly, "Commander, if this monster is conscious, it is a guardian, not an object, and it is waiting." The Titan was gently spinning, making no noise. But when the spacecraft passed the edge of its gravitational field, something changed. The Silex ships came in at a sedate pace, not to prevent discovery, but out of respect. The transparent layers and resonant metals that made up the creature's skin started to vibrate with various color and sound tones. With wide eyes, Kyria said he recognized the fleet. "It's calling us with song." Waves of color swirled over the giant on the Eloria Vale's main screen, each one carrying a different feeling. The chill of a broken look, the warmth of a forgotten touch, or the terror of a forgotten memory. Vera inhaled deeply before descending. By themselves, the landing capsule made a gentle contact with the Titan's hull, but the collision did not injure it. Rather, it appeared to absorb the ship, much like a wound that opens to welcome what it recognized. It wasn't physical. Rather, it was something that clawed the skin from the inside, as if it were pleading to come out, as if her body weren't strong enough to hold what was about to happen. Vera felt the strain of emotion increase with every step she took inside. When she arrived in the core of the Titan, she saw a crystalline sphere floating in a gravity void, and something beat inside it that wasn't a heart, but rather a rhythm. And Vera vanished as it was played. Not within the body. On schedule. The sky was a perpetual dawn, and she was laying, nude, in a field of liquid light, with Derek, or someone like him, at her side. They didn't talk, they didn't touch, but everything inside them touched. The bodies glowed in unison, as though they breathed into one another, and there was warmth between the thoughts and shivers between the actions. Then she noticed more. Each breath was delicate sex, each touch was a forgotten ritual, each body curve was a silent prayer. Kyria, Lean, and others were all in various incarnations, all experiencing nonlinear pieces of the same history. Identity, not desire, was what bound them together. They were all one, dispersed over recollection. Vera came back, lying on the Titan's floor. However, now that the gateway is operational, the fourth portal appeared in the heart of the Colossus, a spiral of dark light that did not transmit light or make sound, but time started to fail wherever it existed. 1 minute froze for hours. 1 day stretched into millennia. Soldiers aged and then regenerated, caught in uncontrollable cycles. While council ships watching from a distance at the edge of the Trallis system started to disintegrate into folds of time. Then nothing. The navigators lost their sense of direction, the records of all the probes were tainted, and a new feeling surfaced in the live archives of psychic historians. Reality no longer revolves around the present. When Vera woke up on the resting bed in Eloria Vale, Kyria was sitting next to her, observing her and softly caressing her collarbone. Her body was hot and nude, and her skin vibrated in golden tones. She muttered, "You were gone for hours," Vera said. "How much time has passed here? I'm not sure, but it's also 2 hours, 7,000 years, and 5 minutes. Vera grinned, tears welling up in her eyes. "The room is finished." "And now?" Derek inquired as he cautiously entered and silently respected them. "We are no longer a species these days. Still without the suit." She got to her feet. "All of this was once ours, and it will be again, as we serve as a reminder. The Colossus was once more dozing outside. However, a sentence blazed like a live tattoo on his skin. They just lost their own names. The primordial gods have not left. Block 12. The council was unable to overlook it any longer. A live star, a flying tower, a lost planet. And now a biomechanical behemoth were the 4 portals that had been triggered, and they all reacted only to human input, for shared memory, not for control. The voices were broken, the faces were pallid, some members were absent, and even those who were there realized they weren't really there. At the emergency meeting in Orenthal, with a harsher tone than before, General Verdrex declared, "We lost." The sectors of Kral and Ether Prime, the containment forces, abandoned their posts. Deserted, a diplomat inquired. No. They're shifting. Some say they dream of Earth, while others say they dream of unnamed things. One of the first to suggest discussion, Selimtran, got up on the other side of the table, although not in a fury, but calmly. The galaxy has returned to its rightful owner and is no longer yours or ours. With a mental sword in hand, Verdrex leaped off the chair, but Charn remained still. "Kill me if you want," he continued. "But even inside you, the seeds have already sprouted." They were, in fact. Some caressed their skins as though expecting to feel something different. Some repeated human sentences they had never acquired. And hundreds of individuals from the most varied species started displaying unexplained signals in recent weeks. Even though they were unaware of it, they were reacting to the portals. The council finally decided to intervene completely at that point. The strategy was straightforward. Surround, disrupt, seize Vera Lorne, and, if feasible, destroy the portals. 6 fleets were deployed toward the vectors nearest to human influence. But there was something strange going on in the middle of the Eloria Vale. Creatures started using their claws and saliva to carve the spiral sign in the K-Ralva jungles, where no human had ever been sighted. Since it was felt by everybody, there was no location for the 7th gateway. It was the right to simultaneously recall and create, and he was back. Vera and Derek lay together in Eloria Vale, resting. Not together, but as protector and Genesis. Kyria went down, surrounded by light. The work is finished. The cycle started once again. Vera muttered, her eyes watering. "We are not deities. Hold on." The gods attempted to emulate us, and a dead star rekindled from the galaxy's core, where no species has ever ventured. And within it, a murmur filtered through the creases of space. The first gods were humans, and nobody else chuckled this time.